Then. Hi, earners. I see you guys coming in. Welcome. We're so happy you guys are here. Rabia, what's up? How's it going? My co-host.
Hey, Jan.
Hey. Hi, guys. I see you guys in the chat. Put some fire in the chat if you're excited that we're having a women's initiative, and this is for us. Shout out to the guys that are here too. The brave souls. No, we really are excited you guys are here. We need men in this conversation to support us. Oh, we're live on YouTube. How exciting.
Now we're live on YouTube. Tube, what's up? What's going on, Tube?
Hey. Hi, earners. What's up?
Yeah. We got a whole...
Wait, where did Yo go? Hold on.
Did you get her wine?
I'm just crashing the party tonight. I'd like to introduce myself.
Awesome. Rabia, if you can keep an eye on the attendees and maybe the other panelists, just bring them over if you know how to do that. They're on.
You mean upgrading them to panelists?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, cool. Let's get this party started. Hi, Jamal. I see you in the chat.
Jamal, what up?
Tiffany.
Boss, what's going on, my guy? Oh, drum roll, please.
Bring them over if you know how to do that.
Yeah, you live right now.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, you live. You definitely live. How's everybody doing? I am so happy to be here amongst some amazing women. This is going to be an eventful night. I'm happy to be on this side. Well, this side of the table for now, but on the other side in a little bit. Women's Month is an important month. And we want to recognize all of our women. Like, we don't want to discount any of our women because their efforts in our community, especially in our households, definitely in our communities, goes unmeasured. And so we wanted to take time out to recognize our women. A lot of these women that are going to be on tonight are very dear friends and have helped shaped mindsets throughout the country. And then there's this special lady.
Fuck that talk, Troy.
You know, there's this special lady who she's sitting next to me. You know, without her, you know, there really wouldn't be any of this. I shout out to my man Derek Falcon. He said one day, look, yo, I want to shout out Danny for allowing us to record in her house every weekend.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. It's
amazing. I don't want to discount that. I am eternally grateful. Obviously, this is my best friend and my wife, and I'm super proud of her. And she's gonna get to talk her talk. So I'm so excited about that. You're gonna catch a lot of knowledge because I've been getting it for what, like 15 years, over 15 years. And so we learn from each other. And I'm excited about this. I really am. And so y'all are in for a treat. Today was national. It was the pay wage day, right? We're fighting for pay increase or equal pay day, right? So it makes perfect sense that we're having this conversation with our ladies. Obviously, you know, all humans are created equal, but our women need to be treated a lot better, especially African American women and women of color. Like we need to make sure that they're getting the proper respect that they deserve. And so anytime we get to highlight and put them up on a pedestal, I'm ready for it. And I'm all for that. So shout out to all women, not just the women in here, but all women that are doing incredible things in education, in the home, in life in general, man. We greatly appreciate y'all. And we love y'all. I'll tell y'all I love y'all. Love is love. All right.
George, before you go, I know you're just giving a quick hello, but you guys brought up the idea to me to have a women's initiative. So maybe you could talk a little bit of why it was important for you guys to have a women's initiative with EYLU.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the early things when we were doing the podcast, we definitely said we need to make sure that we highlight our women because there's women who are doing incredible things, especially in the world of business and finance. And we made a conscious effort to do that. And when we were thinking about a month, when we were starting over with EYLU, like the grad school, I was like, look, we need to do something specific for our women. And we kind of threw around the idea, like, let's just have a women's book club and make it specific for women. And we'll have a men's book club. And then I was like, that's cool, but it's not really enough. And so when we thought, oh, March, Women's Month, it was a no-brainer. Like, we need to have a class specifically dedicated to our women, to highlight our women, to let them tell their stories authentically. The book we chose this month is by an incredible woman, Shonda Rhimes.
Amazing.
Amazing book. And so it's always great to hear the perspective of the opposite sex, because you're always going to learn, right? Women and women just have a great mindset. And shout out to my wife, she's gonna kill me. They have a great mindset. And even when we're talking about finance, man, they are a lot more patient, and they are, I mean, I'm not even afraid to admit it. A lot of times they're better investors just because of the characteristics that they possess. And so, like I said, anytime we get to highlight women, I'm all for it. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be an amazing evening. And like I said, I'm sitting here today as a proud earner, like a proud earner tonight, for real. Like I get to sit in the director's chair and watch my wife and watch Jatali and Rabia and Valencia go off and spread some knowledge. And hopefully their stories will be similar to some of the stories you've experienced, and some of the things that they've gone through, you hopefully can relate to. And if not, add to the conversation, because that's what this is all about. We're trying to grow as a community, but it starts with our women, right? They are a lot of times the foundation of the household. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of and represented.
Awesome.
I know I said 60 seconds, Janet, but I'm sorry.
No, we're happy to have you, Troy. Thank you so much for that. So just to kick this off, ladies, this is for us. Drop some fire in the chat if you're excited about this. If you want us to do something more like this, you know, because it's so important for us to have each other's back. And oh, we see the fire coming already. Ooh, this is exciting. I'm feeling the energy. But you know, for those of you guys that don't know who I am on YouTube, or even if you're just a new earner, my name is Janet Da Silva. I am operations manager of EYL University, and it is an absolute honor to host the first ever Women's Initiative Ladies of Leisure event for us. And really, you know, as we go through this discussion, I want you earners to really self-reflect on the conversation, on the questions that we asked the panelists, and think about yourself, because really this is about us owning our journey, you know, and not letting society or people tell us women have to be a certain way, or, you know, my mom did it this way, so I have to do it that way. No. We're breaking all that down today. And we want you guys to really be kind of reflective and think about what works best for you. And I love that Troy brought up the book we're reading right now, The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. Shout out to Rabia, because that was actually one of her suggestions for the Women's Initiative. And the book is really about her saying yes to herself. And, you know, if Troy might remember on book club that one of the women mentioned that really we're always saying yes to something, just not always saying yes to what works best for us or putting ourselves first. So we're going to talk about what it means to put yourself first, what it means to say yes to what works for you. And one of my favorite quotes from the book before we really get into this discussion was where Shonda Rhimes talks about meeting Toni Morrison for the first time. That was like her idol. She was like, oh my God, I can't wait to meet her. And when she meets Toni Morrison only wants to talk to her about Grey's Anatomy. And she says that would have never happened if I had stopped trying to be like her and didn't get about my business of being me. So we want you guys to get to the business of being you and being great and amazing. So we're so excited to be here. And EYLU is a school that is focused on entrepreneurship and developing leadership. And it only makes sense that we make space for women, especially Black women, as we are the #1 budding entrepreneurs in the US right now. So there's definitely, this conversation is needed. And I'm so excited that you guys are here. I want to introduce my amazing co-host, Rabia. And I hope Rabia touches on, she loves to say that she's actually been historically a guy's girl. I love when you tell that story. But here she is with a women's initiative, and she runs one at her company. I don't want to steal your thunder. I want you to talk about it too. But I think no one knows more than anybody else how important it is for women to have each other's back than someone that's, you know, worked in an industry full of men. You know what I mean? So I'm so happy you're here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Rabia?
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, perfect. Hi, everybody. Super excited to have you guys here. We've been planning this for a minute.
Yes.
So I'll get to your story and kind of work backwards. So yes, I am the girl that is used to being around 50 dudes and being friends with a bunch of guys all my life, you know, the tomboy growing up. And though I have a few very close female friendships from even 7th grade, it's still a small, I'm still used to being kind of around a lot of men, and even in the industries that I've been working in, you know, most of my life. my cousins, all of that kind of stuff. So last year when the pandemic hit, I kind of put out a call to a bunch of my entrepreneur friends and said, hey, if you guys, want to start talking about things. And I was sending them information on like, PPP and Idle and things like that. And that kind of just morphed into us meeting literally every Friday. I think we took a couple of Fridays off during the summer, but every Friday March was a year. And it ended up being all women, even though I had sent it out to, everybody. It ended up being all women. And it's just been a interesting conversation, moving each other forward. And I've just kind of been facilitating that. So my name is Rabia Sutton. I own a 10-year-old multi-million-dollar tech company called Forward Think. And we sell primarily to the federal government. I set up a new company in January called Live Recitals that I'm getting off of the ground now, that will be focused on creating software for companies using AI and machine learning whenever possible. And also it was really important to me, as we're talking about women, this is particularly substantive, that we're committed to being comprised of 50% women and minorities, right? So hiring from, Black Girls Code and other organizations where they are, going out into different communities, Black and brown communities, Asian communities, Middle Eastern, and teaching young folks how to do things technically. We would be sourcing from those groups to get our talent and making, social and wellness impacts whenever we can. And then because of the whole facilitating a women's group, which I never in my life thought I would be doing, that's turned into, we're going to be pre-launching like a mentoring program for existing businesses. Nice. And I have a feeling, I'm not going to put a restriction like it's only women, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of women, which is fine. I'm all about women empowerment. So that's my story.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you here, Rabia. You guys will see a lot more of her. Earner, show her some love in the chat.
How dope is Rabia, y'all? Can we get some claps, hands? Because
these guys are so funny.
Yes. Black girl magic. We love it. Danielle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I see my sister Val. I'm just honored to be on this panel with you beautiful ladies. And I think my husband, Troy, as you know, my better half, Troy of Earn Your Leisure. I'm just appreciative of this opportunity, and just a little bit about me, us, which you may not know, or you may know. We've been married for almost 9 years and have 2 beautiful children. Our daughter Jordan be 10 in June, and our son Christian will be turn 7 in January. I have, for the past 12 years, up until more recently, worked in human resources, specializing in labor and employee relations. So specifically what that really means is I'm that person on the job that's leading investigation, mitigating risk, providing coaching and counseling to, executives, senior leadership, and everybody in an organization. So ultimately my job, what I did for the past 12 years in some form or facet was just ultimately protect any organization from, major lawsuits, just by promoting policy, interpreting, coaching, counseling, and obviously you dealing with investigations from sexual harassment, which was huge with the Me Too movement, unfair treatment and discrimination, which, was really, really huge. But up until recently, because I did make a very difficult decision to put my career on hold to now support my family and my husband, who is obviously a serial entrepreneur. EYL, it's growing. So I think right now in my capacity, I'm a full-time mom, supporting my husband and benefiting so much so from this EYL platform because it's so much knowledge. And I think what's really great is that I'm able to be exposed to so much. I'm benefiting from this information and exposing our children, and I'm able to support them. So I think that's one amazing thing about my position, is that I was able to smoothly transition into just staying at home full time while continuing to grow in myself.
Love it. Thank you for being here. We're so excited to get to know you more throughout this conversation. Let's also introduce Valencia, our other panelist. We have 2 other ones that we want to get to know. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Valencia. We're so happy you're here as well. You're on mute, hon. All we see is that big smile.
All right.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. So good to be here. It's exciting.
Hey.
I'm Valencia, and I used to teach. I taught middle school, and I was an adjunct at a university in Maryland for 12 years. This is my 13th year in education. This year, I am a coach, a digital coach, and I love that job, but I don't love the fact that I work really, really hard, and nothing that I do would ever be able to be passed down to my lineage, like no matter what, if I keep doing this job without thinking about it in a way that would leverage, the work for not just the community, but for my own that come after me, so that they can do way more creative things in the same line of work if they want to, without having to worry about having a lot of other things to do. So that's really where I am right now. And I feel like I'm in transition, but I still love education. I love learning. Just the theory of learning is my favorite thing. And so I like to say that I'm moving from being an advocate to being an activist.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'll speak a little bit about that. An advocate, they work in the system. So as a teacher, I was an advocate. But now that I'm leaving the system, I'm going to be a full-time activist. And the beauty is that I'm leaving with grace. I'm resigning with grace. And so I can still go to those tables and put the advocacy hat on. And that was really, really important to me. I didn't want to turn my back on anybody or any of the projects I started or any of the students that I love. And sometimes that happens. That has happened to me before. And so I'm really grateful that I was able to really transition, like you were saying earlier, as smoothly as I have been able to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that intro. Jatali, last but not least, please unmute yourself. We're coming to you, as Troy would say.
Cheers, everyone. Recently, I was on as a guest. I'm going to say,
Breaking up a little bit. Really. Oh.
Guys hear me?
Yeah, you're freezing a little bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you're frozen. It's hard to hear you.
Do you want to maybe log out and log back in, maybe? That might help. She's just frozen right now. All right.
I'll look for her.
Yeah, let me know when she jumps back on. But I guess to continue the conversation, a lot of you guys touched on. Oh, she comes back.
She goes.
All right. Let's give Jatalia.
Cheers, guys. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
So much better.
Do you guys hear me? Are we good?
We good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I wanted to start by saying thank you once again to the EYL community and the men of EYL for not only creating this platform, but for picking us as ladies, because I really see the variety in what we have and what we bring to the table. So I think that's exciting. If you haven't heard of me before, my name is Jatali Bellington. I'm the founder of Kids Who Bank and Brilliant Minds Unite. We teach financial literacy in the school systems. As of December 2020, we did 278 schools nationwide around the United States. And then we started going into African countries. Do you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, but I'm dead frozen on here.
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry. So, okay, perfect. So basically, long story short, 278 schools nationwide. Then we started to bridge more into like Africa and other continents. Myself, I'm mixed with West African and West Indian and European race. So for me, when I look at the world that we are in, I didn't want to just make that Western money and stay here with it. I wanted to make sure I went back to Africa and other parts of the world and give back. And so part of that giving back journey has been leaving the corporate world and becoming an entrepreneur, and has also been, for people who don't know, I was definitely in the finance world for 13 and a half years. So taking all of that knowledge and now bringing it to my people, bringing it to, the different continents, and not just putting myself in a box of this is who you are going to be only. You're not just a family woman, you're not just a mom, you're also an entrepreneur, you also love to give back and connect with the masses. And so now this is who I am, this is what I do. And I just find ways to make sure we're all connecting the dots, and finance is a conversation, because I noticed that oftentimes people say, it's not that hard, or it's not that easy, it's just $1 at a time. But then who's giving you the tools to make sure that you're actually putting that dollar forward and turning that dollar to 1,000, that 1,000 to 10,000, and building generational wealth? Because it's so easy when one person gets out. But how about, it's not about getting out necessarily, but making sure that no matter where you are, you're financially well. So that's my goal. That's what we're doing, and we're plugging away.
Love it. So I'm gonna hit you guys with the first question.
Tell you okay?
That was not me. I did not break anything yet.
No, literally, no, I'm definitely good. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So, Valencia, I'm going to ask you first, and you're on mute right now. So, in this, since you are newly transitioning out of being an educator into building a business around continuing to educate people or advocate the activist role, what is, and you could tell us how long that you've been in this current transition, but what's the hardest part been for you right now? And do you think it would have been a little easier if we weren't in COVID times, or do you think it's been easier because everybody's on the phone and Zoom?
Oh, that's such a great question. So I think the first part of the question is that I started my entrepreneurship journey in 2009. I have LLCs and 501c3s that date back so long. The reality is, though, I didn't know what to do with those things. And I read books, I did research, but I didn't know how to expand them. All I knew how to do was get grants. Like someone said, get grants. Yeah. But I didn't have time to write grants. So I started to use social media to garner funds, and that really worked. We were able to garner $23,000 in like a day. Wow. Like that was like we were moving. And we didn't invest it. Like we just took the girls on the trip. Like we were just like, I hate to say it, but this is how I phrase it. It was a poverty mindset, like paycheck to paycheck with my own nonprofit organization, because I didn't know any better. So COVID was a saving grace, because we couldn't take the girls anywhere. We couldn't do anything anyway. So it gave us time to be like, well, what are we doing? The exposure that I had from other organizations, including EYL, I started being able to take time during COVID to really comb through what am I doing, and then what do I want to do? That's been the hardest part. So
what do you want to do?
Yeah, what do I want to do?
You know yet? I
feel really good. I don't know if the moons have changed. I got to ask my homegirl, like, what's up? Because the clarity that I have right now, it feels like none of the old stuff is there anymore. So it's not hard anymore to realize, like even right now, when I say I'm resigning from the school system with grace, I looked at everything that I was tasked to do. I listed it, and I looked at what do I never want to do again. So how do I make sure that this is a seed that I plant in the system so that someone else can carry the torch? Because this is not my joy. Somebody else probably likes to do this piece, but I don't want to do this. But I have to. It's a part of my responsibilities. As I'm leaving, I'm never doing this. And then what part do I love? And so now that I'm finding out what I love, oh my gosh, the lean in has been amazing. So it went from hard to being the most easy, enjoyable journey.
Okay, I love it.
I wanted to say one thing, just to remind the earners to start asking yourself some of these questions, like, what do I want? What do I like to do? Because sometimes we get stuck in a rut. We're like, we're living the same day over and over again. But I really want the earners to like self-reflect as we're going through this and think about yourself and these stories. So just want to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, I love that. Danielle, do you want to answer a similar question about, you know, you went from corporate to
home life.
coming home to run the home, which is a huge. And I could never do, it's so interesting. Like you and Valencia, I think we've all had these prep conversations and we've been vibing, but you know, my husband was an educator, just like Troy, and then he became a principal. And I wanted to divorce him because he was never home. And I'm trying to build this business up in the meantime, right? And so, and truth be told, he's the better parent. So I'm always like, why are you trying to leave these kids with me? Mm-hmm. Do you want them to be crazy when they grow up? Then you need to be here to balance it out, right? So he ended up doing what you're doing once we were in a financial position to do it. So
yeah, and you know, I'm gonna be totally honest. It was really hard to make the decision to leave the workforce, and you know, because I didn't want to be judged. Because women, we're going to be judged no matter what, whether you're a working mother or you're a stay-at-home mother. Women, we just experience that judgment. And I think the true problem is equitable, because society is going to tell us and define like what we need to do or what we should be doing to be deemed acceptable, right? We've shifted from the narrative of, you know, dad, fathers, husbands bring home the bacon, moms stay at home, and, you know, they bear the children and they take care of the household. We've shifted from that narrative, which is great. And then you see a lot of moms killing it in the workforce, running business, entrepreneurs. I mean, shout out to all of them on the line right here and on this panel, right? However, you still have judgment either way. Like either it's like, how can you leave the kids and go run $1 billion business? Or, you know, how are you just staying home and not contributing? And I struggle with that. It was like, you know, how am I adding value? What am I bringing to the table? You know, women, you know, we keep our little side bank accounts. We do. Let's be real. So, you know, because I don't need my husband questioning some of my purchases. So we got to keep it real. So it was hard for me to say, all right, let me just stay home with the kids. And one, to your point, Rabia, like the kids drive you crazy. It's like all day, it's like, it's tough, right? You need balance. But I had to realize and take my feelings out of it and understand that I'm now supporting my husband, who is working really hard and I'm so proud of. And I'm now giving him the freedom to not even have to worry about this household, because I'm gonna hold it down, because his success is our success, right? And I'm also benefiting because I'm learning from him, and we're having good conversations, and we're exposing our children to new things, and I'm exposing, you know, we're exposed to new things. So I think once I was able to recognize and realize and be comfortable that my contributions now are physical and emotional to my children, instead of thinking like I need to bring something to the table financially when, you know, we're doing okay. I think we're doing all right. And knowing that how much we're growing, I realized like, okay, I'm good with this. I know my place right now. I'm comfortable, and that doesn't end here. Like I could easily consult or, you know, start a business, but right now I'm comfortable saying I want to focus all of my efforts on my children, and supporting my man, because that's where the need is right now.
Right.
Love it.
We're building together.
That's right.
Together.
And Danny, I love that you're on the call, because, you know, EYLU is really focused on entrepreneurs. And I want women to know if they need to take a step back, that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with, you know, we have people on the panel letting you know that if you need to focus on your family or, you know, go back to school, whatever it is, whatever feels right for you, there's nothing wrong with that. Even if your friends are on to their third business, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, we love that you're on the panel and sharing your stories.
Yeah. And I would just say, to add on to that, whether you need to or your partner does, because it can be, you know, it's the balance is different depending on everybody's situation, but it, you know, it definitely takes a special person and My husband's been able to go back to school full time, and he's working on his PhD in special education leadership. So, and then he's dealing with the kids, and our youngest is 17. So I know I'm working harder, but them days when I'm just kidding. He's working super hard on his PhD, but the days when they were younger and they definitely needed somebody there, it was great to have them. So I know Troy is loving the fact that you're there, Danielle.
Yeah, and all, just because I felt where I was struggling with where I needed to feel validated. And I realized that I was feeling like, is it my career that's validating me, or is it my purpose in we're validating and ensuring that my family grows? Like we'll grow a family, and that our business grows and our brand grows, and that we now have created this generational wealth like Jatali has spoken to. So once I was able to take my, is my screen frozen? I see some comments. Oh,
it was earlier, but we could hear you, so we just let you.
I hope it was frozen while I was looking cute, y'all. So don't come for me.
It was.
But I just think that once I realized I don't need a position or a role or a title or a career to validate me, and I recognized that my purpose was more important, then I was good. I was okay. And I think it's important for any woman on this panel that is struggling and worried about the judgment, because I worried so much, and I was like lost, and I had so many conversations, even with my sister, like, you know, what am I going to do? Am I going to be bored? You know, these kids, I don't want to be that stigma of the stay-at-home mom. Once I got past that and I recognized it was so much better, like so my purpose was so much greater, I felt I'm okay. Like I'm really good. And I'm understanding now that it's bigger than just me and any job and any title that I could hold. And it's my family. Like, this is the most important job I'm ever going to have. It's a mom and a nurturer and motherhood. So I want any women on this panel, if they're feeling a way about having to take a step back, please don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
And the reality is you could go back and get another job whenever you want.
I could, but I probably won't. But
because now you're on the other side and you're like, hell no. Girl, yeah, absolutely not. Okay, Jatali, same question for you. So you're corporate, and now how long have you been running the couple of businesses that you mentioned? And what was this transition like for you?
So I've been an entrepreneur. My son is 6 years old as of March, and I've been an entrepreneur technically for 6 years. And for me, the kick was I gave so much of my energy and myself working, not just a 9 to 5, because I had UK clients and I had California clients. So I would get to work at like really 4 or 5 a.m. sometimes to make sure we were there to do whatever had to be done for our UK clients. While I was in New York. And then when 10 o'clock hits, I'd be working because we had California clients. So for them, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. For me, it's 10, 11 o'clock. And so I was putting all this energy into the company. And then when I became pregnant, I remember having this conversation with the VP of the company I was working for, and she questioned my dedication.
I'm on mute telling her we can't hear you. Can you say something to something?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So I was saying so just to recap it quickly, what happened was when I decided I wanted to take my full 3 months of maternity leave after giving so much of my energy to this company, the VP of the company, who was a woman whose kids were like, you know, off the bar, I will just say they were all kind of screw ups as adults. And this woman told me, I thought you had more ambition than that to want to take a full 3 months off to raise a baby. And you know, back then, who was I going to call to complain about that, honestly? And it blew my mind because I was like, wow. And then she was like, can you afford to take that kind of time off, even if we didn't pay you? But technically they had to pay me because I knew enough about the law to know that they paid other people their full maternity. So I deserved my full maternity. And this is after I've made them millions of dollars. And I remember just having this moment where I realized
Breaking up again, Jatali.
Oh my goodness. Can you guys hear me now?
We can.
All right. So I think I was at value. So having made this company millions of dollars and then having them turn around and tell me basically in short that they didn't feel like my ambition was there because I want to take full maternity leave and the list continues. It started my journey of feeling like, you know what? I've worked night and day to make these people millions. I'm going to make $1 million for at least 1 million for myself. And I always had this cap over my head as to how much money I could make. And honestly, as soon as I left that corporate world, and then I remembered missing like my son's first giggle, and that broke my heart. I was at work and I just heard I heard that I missed his first giggle, and his dad's like, yeah, you know, he had his first giggle, and I'm like, no, like so maybe at work, I remember thinking, this is no longer for me. This no longer serves my purpose. And before I knew I was an entrepreneur, and the same hours, I just wanted to see, at least for 1 to 2 years, if I put that same energy into myself that I put into those companies and corporations that I worked for, what would happen? And sure, lo and behold, rather it was through real estate investing or my stock options portfolio, the list continues, finding mentors, I was able to actually make that kind of money for myself and start to expand my own empire. And it was the most satisfying feeling. I'm not gonna say I didn't have a lack of self-love or these moments where I would just be up at 4 a.m. studying and crying because I'm like overwhelmed because you have a little one who's sometimes intermittently waking up in the middle of the night for like, you know, a ball of
You sound like a robot.
It's like as soon as we say something, then it fixes itself. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I guess that's kind of how my journey started. And I mean, it's not easy, but honestly, we do more for others, I feel like, especially as women. We put so much energy into other people's corporations and their dreams and their goals. And when it's time for us to do it for ourselves, we hesitate. And that hesitation or that lack of confidence as far as, oh, I know for sure I'm making 500 for this, but then you could have made $1 million for yourself. And so I just had to stop thinking that way. And I had to stop operating from fear, because I literally was operating from fear, because the fear of failure, the fear of what happened, I can do myself. And we had to break that.
Can you expand more on that, to Tali? Because I know that a lot of us sometimes feel like the imposter syndrome or just fear, self-doubt, all that kind of stuff. So you talked about breaking that in order to launch on your own and invest in your own goals, and you're building your own company. So for women that might feel self-doubt, like, can I really do this? You know, I'm good at what I do now. I'm making these people money, but I know this check is coming and it's consistent. I have kids or whatever. So how do you tell, you know, women out there that might be scared to launch out that it's okay to do so? Or what did you do that helps you make that, you know, that move?
One of the first things I say about fear is that when we operate from that space, is there's a level of awareness. Like sometimes fear is not a bad thing, right? It can motivate us to push ourselves a little bit harder. But when we allow it to stop our hustle, our grind, that's when it becomes to me a bad thing. And all of that fear, in the end of the day, you're going to be that old person who's like, shoulda, coulda, woulda. And you're going to turn around, you're going to look back and be like, man, like you had all these precious years. And I allowed myself to do something, even through my fear, I was able to break through and do something I never knew I could accomplish. I learned things about myself, and I was able to help others in that process. Even though I wasn't necessarily planning to help another person, it just was part of my journey. And the doors that just kept opening in front of me were bigger. The rooms got bigger. The people around me got bigger. But then I was also able to keep a certain level of humility about me, because I used that fear to keep me humble. That fear reminded me like, yo, real facts, you can be back at ground zero, starting over brick by brick. But then also it's like not allowing it to cripple me. And the pain of that crippling fear is that honestly, you never know what you really truly could have accomplished. And I repeat it again because people don't realize that, you know, it's like real estate. You know, I invest in real estate. I call somebody and I ask you for your property. You might tell me no, but it's not about the 100 no's, it's about that one yes. And I say all the time, when you become a billionaire overnight. But how would you know if you were just so afraid because someone told you no? Like, you know, you have to have that winner attitude, in my opinion.
Yeah. For any of you other women on the panel, how do you guys overcome self-doubt? How have you guys done that?
I don't know that I have overcome it, which is funny. Because I think I know I am my worst critic. I think a lot of times we are our own worst critics. You know, I tend to get very nervous and also second guess myself. What I've learned to do and use different resources and tools through reading, meditation, and really just taking a minute and learning to, you know, understand and respect my own decisions. So much so often, I think it starts with self-love, self-care, to get over that hurdle. I was nervous about this panel. I was like, you know, Troy was telling me, oh my God, you'll be fine. Then I was like, oh my God, what I'm going to say, the internet trolls, you know, cause I be wanting to be in them comments sometimes, but you know, I was just, I think when you get out of your own head, and I do appreciate like other women, like my sister, my family, my friends, you know, they all have like, dude, you got this, you'll be great. And I think sometimes a lot of that, it does satisfy and help you to start to say, okay, let me get out of my head. I could do this. And it does build you up. So I think when you have a really tight circle of a strong team around you, that's going to champion you and pioneer you. And, you know, obviously my husband is so great. That definitely helps. But then ultimately you have to look inside and get out of your head. So I haven't gotten to that point yet. But obviously through self-care and self-love, we'll get to that point. But I think sometimes it is very tough to just not be our own worst critic. So that's my honor. That's my truth.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think you're always going to have bits of doubt here and there. Mm-hmm. But when it gets painful enough, you're either going to lay down and die or you're going to fight back and figure it out. Right. And so similar to, you know, Jatali, I left corporate America, you know, in 2010 because I had a crazy supervisor. Are we allowed to curse on here? I need to going forward. So I had, you know, 5 supervisors in a 3-year period. And the second to last one was an asshole, like complete. And he, you know, and my kids were young and I hadn't spent the night away from them. And I started to get this insane travel schedule. I was like going to Florida every other week from DC, and to get called into his office for him to yell at me. And I was like, who do you think you're talking to? Like, I'm not the one. And right. So again, like, you know, just Sally said, you've assisted in making, you know, millions and millions of dollars for these companies. And the people that I supported, I loved, but the people in management, specifically this one supervisor, it was too much. And so, you know, I knew I wanted to start a company always. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, but when the pain got too much, like I'm about to be on the 7 o'clock news if this person says one more thing to me. And I had gone back to school to get my MBA. And so I just remember like graduation ceremony, we're at, you know, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and my husband's there, my kids and everybody. And they made us like say something. And I was like, yeah, on Monday, I'm going to resign. And my husband's like, still a teacher, and I'm making like, you know, 3 times as much money as him. He's just looking at me, and we talked about it, but it didn't, like, I could not bear to be there another day. Like I was going to die. And so I was just like, homie, it's fine. I'm good. And I did. I left on a Friday. I came back on Monday as a consultant for the first 6 to 9 months. So there's ways. You do not have to just jump in and start a business. You know, Valencia, I'd love for you to jump in on this. You know, like you said, you have started these things, but then you weren't sure what each step was. And it's hard to figure all that out when you have a full-time job. And and then a full-time job of teaching and a lot of that is counseling and all the behavioral issues and other things that are happening to your students and all the bureaucracy above you. It's daunting. And so, but before I started this company in 2010, I had started 2 other companies part-time, because when I would leave a company, they would hire somebody, fire them, and then call me and be like, hey, can you do this for us as a consultant? And so I, was playing around with that for a while, but, I know I've seen, and we're going to take questions, but all of this stuff is solvable. How do you get benefits? It's easier to get benefits now through the Affordable Care Act than it has ever been when I started. You had to have a certain number of people before you could get a health plan. The community banks, like there's steps, guys, for you to do, but there's also ways that you can do it depending on what your temperament for risk is. And, in these times of COVID, it's just so much easier, I think, to start something and research it, go on EYL, look at all these videos. I tell everyone who listen to me, including all my kids and their friends, y'all need to go on there. What kind of business you want to start? You want to get a trucking business? You want to stocks, real estate? What you want to do? You want to flip sneakers? EYL got it. Hey, I have a subscription. Tell me if you want a membership. I'll buy you one, because I don't have time, but I want to start every one of those kind of businesses. So I'm just looking for somebody who'll be like, yeah, I'll do it with you. We'll watch the videos and figure it out. But not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur, but for people who have that spirit, there's definitely a road. So Valencia, what you got to say to that?
I would just say, anything you do with part-time energy, you're going to get part-time results. If you do something with full-time energy, you get full-time results. So that was my issue, is that I was putting my hard work as my part-time job and not showing up. And if you show up as an empty vessel, what are you actually going to do? What is your actual impact? So a big part of being an entrepreneur, or whatever title this applies to any title, is being reflective on the work that you're doing, like constantly reflective on the work that you're doing. And I think that for me, that was the way that helped me to get off the train and get back on the train, but you also can't be afraid to get on and off. And I think sometimes there is a fear attached to it. There's also a fear attached to leaving your 9-to-5. Danielle spoke so eloquently about it as a mom, but just as a person coming from poverty, you are really taught, you're indoctrinated with this idea that you need to have a pension. That's it. Like there's no other way. A lot of us really think that. Elders really are told this. And so it's like we, as women right now, we're up against a lot when it comes to making sure that the young people that we're in front of, that we're raising, that we're birthing, that they really understand that they can be whatever they want to be, and making sure that they see it in so many ways. Like, I'm really grateful that we get to see it and be a part of it.
Yeah, I love that. Chitali?
I really want to add to that, Valencia, you triggered a memory. About a month ago, I had this old elderly couple. Their daughter was someone I mentored, and her business became truly successful. Her parents refused to hear anything about money and finances from her because they were just like, we're older, we know better.
Jatali, you're still freezing. Some people said if you turned your video off, it might help with the bandwidth. No, that's not helping.
But can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you. Yeah, we can.
Is it helping now?
We'll see.
All right, hopefully this helps. So long story short, I had a young lady who came to me and I was mentoring her and I helped her financially get on straight. And her parents, her dad was 74 and her mom was 69. And they were at the age of retirement, but they couldn't retire. And they realized that, they were from Trinidad and they wanted to go back to Trinidad and Tobago. And so this young man, this man, he's 74 years old and he's talking to me. He said, I'll be honest, besides my 401k, he's like, I raised about $2 million in my 401k. And he was like, but then I had 4 kids. And so by the time you're done with 4 kids and they all go to college and uni, the money he had left was about, let's say, $1 million total. And, we're having this conversation and he's like, well, the places that he wanted to buy property in Trinidad were waterfront. And now those same places are so expensive that he can't even afford to buy a home where he wanted to retire with his wife. And he realized that he never knew he didn't properly set up for retirement because life got so expensive. And one of the things about fear was that this man was like, when he was in his 30s, he said, when I'm older, I'll get someone to teach me. And then when he hit his 40s, he's like, I'm too old to tell somebody I don't know about how to financial literacy, and I don't know how to maximize my money and my earnings and how to get the proper tax write-offs. And then before you knew it, he said, I'm 74 years old and I'm now learning about how to fix my credit, how to build my financial wealth, and how to leave something for my children when I die. And just besides life insurance. And just hearing him say that, like, it was once again a reminder about fear and how it can cripple us. Because his fear of not wanting to tell people that he didn't financially know certain things, or look dumb in his community when people upheld him and regarded him as the head of the family, stopped him for a long time from a lot of the success he could have done. Because imagine $10,000 in the right mutual fund at 20% in 30 years could have made him $2.3 million. Right. You know what I mean? So when you think about stuff like that, people leave their money in a bank account or in certain avenues and they think, oh, I'm doing great. And real talk, the cost of living keeps going up. A bottle of milk came from $1 to $7 for a gallon, you know what I mean? So when you hear about stuff like that, you have to realize that you have to not live in that fear, because it just cripples you and puts you in that situation where you look back and you're like, do I even have enough time to change and pivot?
Right. Mm-hmm. I love that you said that. We have a club in EYLU that's called the Mature Earners Club. And they talk about what they can do. Like, we're over 50. So that's the club, but you have to be over 50 being the club. And they're talking about all these different things because it really is never too late. You can always do something, you know what I mean? And so I love that you brought that up because again, it brings up the point that no matter where you are in your life, you can make changes, you can own your world. So I really want to open this up to the earners so they can have a chance to ask some questions. I already saw some interesting things in the chat. Somebody said that they're leaving their job tomorrow. I'm like, wow, that's intense. And we had another person that asked Danielle, they had a question for you about how you feel about the impact EYLU has had on people generationally, just to get your perspective. But earners, raise your hand. We're going to start going to people that have their hand raised shortly. So Danielle, if you can answer that question, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. I keep freezing, but I hope everyone can hear me okay.
We can. Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect. The impact is amazing. And I think to kind of watch it from the beginning and see the growth and actually get to see people share their stories or stop my husband or, even reach out to me in my DMs for advice. And it's to see how much people appreciated and needed the information. It is truly inspiring. And I'm amazed every single day and just thankful and blessed to kind of be able to witness history and this legendary. And I'm just proud because my children are now looking up to obviously their father, their godfather, and now their life is different, and I think the most impactful is seeing the transition and shift to the conversations that are being had that I'm a part of, right? So, so many people are now having conversation about stocks or something they heard on Market Mondays or starting businesses or different streams of incomes. And it's amazing to know where that started or where they heard that from. And also just, my kids seeing people wearing the merch and the shirts, and hearing them coming, our daughter, she comes home from school and she's like, oh, so I told everyone in my class about my dad's YouTube channel and how proud she is. So it really is inspiring. It's amazing. And I'm just honestly so grateful and thankful to just be in the position where I can continue to watch the growth. And it really gives us a great sense, and especially for the future and generational wealth, but it gives you a great sense of knowing like there's nothing that we can't do or accomplish or overcome as long as we put our minds to it and learn. And we just got to tap into the information. It's out there. The guys are putting it out there for us. People are truly inspired by it. I am. So it really is just amazing. It's unbelievable at times, but it truly is. It's just amazing.
Awesome. Shout out to you for sharing your house. I really appreciate you. I've learned a lot in your basement watching on Zoom. I know, Tatali, you wanted to mention like pivoting after 30. So feel free to jump in and share.
So someone mentioned that they, you know, a lot of news outlets, etc., will talk about, oh, you know, things to do before the age of 25 to 30 and things to do by this age and by that age. And you know what? There are people, there's this woman the other day in like West Africa who had a baby at 56 years old, first child ever. Wow. Doctor told her she could never have a kid. 56 years old. She threw in the hat, she had a kid. And you know what? I say that with the child to be funny. Realistically though, in business, it's the same thing. It's like having a baby. It's like having your own personal child. And I've seen people who literally at the age of like 62 years old, one of my mentors at 62 years old, never made not even $300,000 in her lifetime, was just like, yo, there has to be more for me than this. She left everything she knew, all her comforts. She threw herself 100% in. And now her and her husband own, just in her rental real estate, just rentals, right? She makes residual $230,000 a month off of her rentals from real estate.
Wow.
Okay. And now her and her husband are multimillionaires, and they probably pay 2 to 5% in taxes, because not only did she throw herself into it, she learned all the tricks that of the employers that she had. The list continues. And meanwhile, she didn't start that till she was 62, and she did that in 4 years. Granted, those 4 years were rocky, and she was team no sleep and no vacation and team no brunches, and she was used to those comforts, but she was tired of perpetrating a fraud. What happened was, on the outside, they saw all her kids were successful, and she had a beautiful, cushy job working for Paul Weiss law firm. And she was tired of like literally not having anything. But then she would go to these beautiful brunches and dinners and these galas and put on these fancy dresses that she, you know, but meanwhile, everyone else in that room might have had more than she did, but she worked as hard as they did. And so there is no age for you to change or to start. You could be 80 years old. Look at the guy, 74 years old. You know, that man, I won't say his name, but that older gentleman, his credit score was a 510. And in 9 months, it was because he had a lot of things that didn't belong in that. In 9 months, he got his credit score. And I sent him to EYL, I must admit. And I was like, hey, watch this guy about the credit. And literally in 9 months, now his credit score is a 710. Wow. He'd never seen a 710 in his life before. So you really want to get started after the age of 30? Guess what? 30, 40, 50 years old, start building your business credit. Understand the power that business credit has. Start building your personal credit. Start leveraging your business credit to make your business work, right? Don't take out personal loans. You know, don't be afraid if you need to file bankruptcy. Realistically, do what you have to do. Don't care about what people are going to say. If that's the best option for you, do what's the best option for you. Don't care about the massive. Do what you have to do for yourself. And, you know, honestly, put in that 100%. Look at these videos and what all these, you know, people reach out to us directly. I'm probably, well, I can't speak for everyone, but like me personally, if you reach out to me and you have a question, 9 out of 10 questions within 2 days get answered. I won't say the same day, I won't say within an hour, but within 2 days, 48 hours, I will answer your question. So now, like,
on that, I hope you know.
I want you to. And, you know, honestly, adding to that, you know, when we come on these platforms and we build our brands, it's really about making sure that people like yourself can come. Now, if I answer 10 questions for free, after a while, it might be like, yo, fam, are you going to start paying? But all jokes aside, you can even just go on our pages and probably look at the posts that we make, or go on our YouTube and look at the videos and podcasts that we've been interviewed on. And if you put all those pieces together, you'll be in a better position.
Yeah. And I want to just piggyback on that. It's always made me laugh when, you know, this idea that you have to start a bit, like, I don't know when people think the perfect age is to start a business, but I know, I was 32 and I still, I kicked myself because at 18, I knew I wanted to do it, but I had this false belief that I needed this corporate experience before I did it because my parents didn't have the corporate experience. And I was like, well, maybe if they had it, it would have went faster, but better, faster. It didn't. So, but, starting a business in your 50s, 60s, like, so many people, you have so much experience. As Vitaly said, obviously getting your credit and everything together, but like you have a leg up on the younger entrepreneurs. They may have a leg up because they don't have a lot of inhibitions built up, right? There's not a lot of fear around asking people for things. But at the same time, if you're 50 plus, you have so much real world experience that is of value. And I also think for people, who are making hiring decisions, like I always look for that demographic to hire because especially if they're already retired, they're not looking to climb the corporate ladder or, come take you out. They're bored. They have all of these contacts and all of this experience. And so, you can use it to your advantage.
So true. I wanted to mention too that Vitaly is actually one of our professors. So the earners that wanted to know more, you'll definitely see more of her for sure. So let's start taking some questions, guys. Ready? All right. So Chris, we are coming to you. Unmute yourself.
Ladies. Shout out to y'all. Y'all are huge inspirations to everybody. Shout out to Vitaly. I attended her first EYL class that she had as a professor, and it was fire. My question was based around the book that we are reading currently in the book club. Shonda Rhimes talked about motherhood not being a job and it being one of the most important things to her. And so my question was for the mothers, how do you balance being a mom and all of the, responsibilities that you have as, a woman, African-American women in today's society?
The mother, is that me? Oh.
No, I think
anybody who's a mom. I don't know.
Mothers on this panel. Rabia, you want to get this up?
Sure. So the question was, how do we balance all of the responsibilities? I was still stuck on what she said about it not being a job. I mean, if you are already like independently wealthy and you have nannies and cooks and chauffeurs and everything else, then it may not be a job. But I don't feel that way. I had my kids very young, 23 and 20. I was 23 and 24 when I had them back to back. They're now 17 and 18. And absolutely, my husband and I were both in school. We were both working, trying to raise kids, we were living in my parents' basement for the first 2 years. It was 100% a struggle. I was finishing school one semester. I was driving like 100 miles a day. So it was absolutely work, but obviously rewarding work. But obviously there's other parts that don't feel as rewarding at the time. I will tell you, like, I did not really like my kids from age 7 to like 12. I'm a great parent of little kids and teenagers. In the middle, that's not my speed. So my husband kind of took over then. But I think it's like everything else. You have to balance it based on your situation. Because my husband was an educator and a big kid, his personality is more suited. He's way more even keeled than I am to being there for them in that way. And I obviously have my own attributes, that they love and some that they don't. But we had to find out our own balance. And because he was a teacher, during the summers, he was with them and teaching them stuff. And then when he became an administrator, it was less so, and it fell more on me. And then when we got to a financial point where I could be like, all right, dude, you have to come, we can't do this anymore. Then we did. And I know, other people have different stories, but yeah, I definitely think it's work.
For sure. I think, I don't think there is balance. It's like, you can't really say there's some balance. I think it's just important to know what works for you in your household. And I think motherhood is everything is unpredictable. I think it's hard to define roles. I think as mothers, we are the nurturer, obviously, from when we birth a child. I think it's very easy to wear that role of just being that ultimate caregiver. And I think it's important to have a support system. And I want to shout out single moms, because I know for me, with as much help that I had, it's very, very hard to balance, period, especially work, when I was working and then coming home. So my hat goes out to all the single moms that are just doing it without, that they said it takes a village, and not everyone has a village. So I think as long as, and yeah, shout out to all you the single moms doing it. So I think the balance is really ultimately what works for you. You have to be okay with knowing your house is not going to be clean, or you may not wash them dishes. Not everyone is going to have, a night nurse, a nanny, cleaning people. So sometimes you have to let it go. And I think the hardest thing for me was recognizing, like, okay, I need to let this go. Like, the laundry's piling up. It's a mess. The kids are crazy. They up, like my kids are up now and they know they should be in bed. So, daddy said he put them to bed. I don't know about that, but you just have to let it go. And I think understand that it's no book. It's no rule book. There's no guide to being a parent. It's very difficult, and there's really no balance. You can do the best you can. I think what works is like my sister's very OCD and organized and crazy and had lists. And then I think that works for her and her children, and very detailed. A mess. I may not be able to find where, their diapers or onesies are and things of that nature. So I think whatever works for you to stay on top of things, but be okay with a little bit of, off balance. And I know Jatali, because she has a 6-year-old, can speak to, what works for her too. But I think it's just going to be different. It's just do the best you can, honestly.
For me, what worked was embracing the uncomfortable, because when I started this, I had a toddler and I started doing speaking engagements and book signing because I wrote my first book. And then I started getting school contracts. And people told me, oh, you're creating a curriculum for schools. Good luck. You might get 5 schools in 3 years. And then my first year, I went into 78 schools, almost 90 something schools, right? Like it came from 78, then to like 93 schools. And, I had a child on my hip, and there were a lot of contracts I had to walk away from because I had my son on my hip. And I would, reach out, the principal would reach out, and I would say, is it okay for me to bring my son with me, who was 2 or 3 years old at that time, to an interview with you as a principal to teach your school? And, some principals would say, no, that's not okay. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'm going to have to schedule your school for maybe next year, because I was a hand-on parent. And my dynamic was that I didn't have a mother or father to be here to help me. I didn't really have a tribe per se that I could be like, these are my immediate family members to watch my son. And, his dad, people would be like, oh, but you have a husband, he can help. I'm like, he has his own goals, his own life, his own double shifts of working, and his own priorities. I couldn't, because I decided I wanted to change who I was as a person and become an entrepreneur, to completely rock the boat and be like, you just got to stop working double shifts. You have to stop making money and bringing home the bacon because I have a goal. And that was one of the hardest things for me to recognize, was that part of my new uncomfortability was knowing that if you really want to do this, you might have to bring your son out on your hip to this book signing. You might have to, go out in the rain and the snow to have an interview with a principal and be up till 1-2 o'clock in the AM grading papers. Mm-hmm. So I really would say, Chris, to answer your question, it's really about embracing the uncomfortability and not being afraid to get that criticism. Because to give you an example, I remember going to a gala with my son, and I was the keynote speaker. And I had him in a stroller. My son was in a tux with his little bow tie and everything. And he was 4 years old, and, very well behaved in his stroller. And it was like 9:30 when I was supposed to speak. Originally, I was supposed to speak at 8 o'clock. So I was like, okay, I'm going to speak and just leave. And then 9:30 comes and I'm supposed to be speaking. And, someone noticed that my son was there, was like, oh, what kind of mom are you? You brought your son to this kind of event this late at night? Where's his dad? And I was like, really? But you know what? That moment, I remember just being like, I'm very comfortable with the kind of hustler that I am. I'm not slinging crack or something. I'm literally the keynote speaker at an event with my son on my hip. And I remember that when they told me that, I grabbed my son, and when I went onto the stage to speak, I had him on my hip, and I did my speech with my son on my hip. And sometimes that's what motherhood is. It's kind of like not giving a damn about what other people's opinions are and just putting 100% in, because if you want to be a hands-on mom, that's just what it is. So that was my journey, you know, as a mom and an entrepreneur and a family person, because our family time is very important to me.
You're on mute, Ruby.
Got it. All right. I am going to call the next person. So Dorothy Muhammad, I'm gonna bring you up.
Hello, family. This is great. Thank you, ladies, for this event. You all are awesome. I wanted to just share the best advice I got. I had gone to my 25th year graduation celebration, and I was sitting looking out over the campus, just enjoying the view, and an older sister came and sat next to me. We were not conversing or anything, but the first thing she said to me was, "Sister, sometimes you have to leave the damn dishes in the sink." And when I tell you that that one piece of advice changed so many things for me. I was the sole participatory parent of 4 children, working on my master's degree, living in a city with no family. And there were nights that I stayed up until 1 o'clock in the morning to wash dishes, because the idea of what a mother and a house should look like was so pervasive in my mind that I didn't give myself a break. Now, I said that it meant a lot to me, but it also says that when you pray, God reveals your answers in so many different ways. You have to just be prepared to hear them. Because I was struggling over something that I had no control over and was really meaningless. And I had prayed about it. And he sent this woman in to sit down and give me that word to release me from the burden of trying to be a perfect mother when there is no such thing. Thank you, sisters.
Wow, thank
Thank
you.
you. It's a whole word right there.
So Edith, we're coming to you. Unmute yourself.
Hi, did I unmute myself?
You did.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just want to say, Mrs. Millings, you are doing fine, and you are so pretty, and just smile a little bit more because I love it. I'm so happy. This is Women's Month, Women's Empowerment Month, and I think my biggest problem is I feel like I'm back in school again. Like I'm on with you, and I also have another podcast. Like I'm the 9-to-5er. I work for education, and my colleagues complain every day. So I'm also the 5 to 9er, and some nights me and my partner, we're up to 4 in the morning because I'm 53, and I want to prove to my family, I want to prove to my children, my community, like I see people and I know God put it in me to save these people. Like you all give so much information, Troy and Rashad and Wall Street Trapper and Him 500 and Alex Good Energy and Ash Cash. And I'm just taking in all the information, and I'm glad that the sister said, leave those dishes in the sink. Because sometimes I feel like the process is moving slow. But, you know, I just want to jump in before, like, the government says, oh, well, you can't get that business credit card anymore, or you can't do 10 LLCs. So that's where I'm at. Like, I want it to happen, like, so fast, but I just have to remain calm and let the process happen. But I just want to thank you all, and I'm so proud that the women are representing for us tonight. Thank you. I love you. God bless.
You.
Thank you.
All right, so Barbara Fields, we're coming to you. Unmute yourself.
Hello, hello. Hi, Janet.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you? So this question is for Jatari. Is it Jatari?
Jatali.
Jatali. Okay, so I'm on the morning meetup, and I think I heard you speak on the morning meetup mentor with Dave Shands. And I had a question. So I I'm in credit repair. After listening to M500, I purchased this program and I'm in credit repair. And I had my first webinar, which Janet knows, and I was so nervous. And my fear is, I've been in the financial industry for a long time. I worked for JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, and Merrill Lynch. But I've always been the type of person that was behind the scenes, even though I was a manager in all those businesses. But for myself, my fear is, as it relates to credit repair, there are so many people out there now with credit repair. And my fear is, well, they know so much more than me. I know what I know, but my fear is getting out there because I fear that they know more than me. And I know that they don't, but that's my fear. So how can I get over my fear as far as getting myself out there, promoting myself, and promoting what I do know? Since I've been in the business, not necessarily credit repair, but I've been in the financial business for 20 plus years.
So I will say 3 things. The first thing I say to you is, 1, you don't have to be a genius at everything when it comes to credit repair. Focus on what you do know, right? So when you do talk about something, whatever it is that you do know, focus on it, and always be open and willing to learn from other people who have more knowledge than you, and you can give them some of your knowledge and they can give you some of their knowledge, and you can just keep growing. And as you grow, you can expand as to what you tackle. So that's 1. And the second thing when it comes to fear is, when I was starting Kids Who Bank, I remembered having speaking to a friend, and the friend, we had a conversation and we were discussing like parenting. And, I remember saying, honestly, and the friend was this bloke named Chris Classic. A lot of people know him. And I remember just being like really humbled by the conversation, because I was just like, part of me worries about coming from this corporate world, always working with numbers, not really being sure how good I am with people. And then having to be in this public space and being like in front and center. And I'm very private. I don't want to post pictures of my family. I'm not out there like that. I didn't even know if I like taking pictures. And, I was just like, focusing on all these things. And I remembered him saying like, what's more important to you? Is what you have to tell more important than your fear? And if it is more important, who can tell that story better than you? Because I remember talking to him about hiring potentially a beard. I'm like, what if I just find someone who'll be the face of Kids Who Bank? And I'm saying all these ridiculous things, honestly. And he was just like, who is going to talk about money and finance the way you do? Who's going to talk to children and create financial crossword puzzles that can relate to the children on their pace, in their language, at a level that they understand the way that you do? And I just remember thinking like, and who's going to train them to make sure that when they communicate with those kids, they're not breaking spirits, but building spirit? And I remember that conversation amongst many others that I would end up having. Female, one of my female mentors, her telling me the same kind of, I just kept hearing it. And the universe just kept talking to me and reaffirming that the fear had no place in what I was trying to accomplish. So the first question I ask you is, are you doing it for the money? Or are you doing it because you want to help people? And if you're doing it because you want to help people, not necessarily for the money, because trust me, the money always follows when you do. In my personal opinion, the money follows when you follow your goals and you're doing it because it serves your higher purpose. I'm like, really think about where does fear place in that situation? And I don't think it has any place when you start to think about what your overall goals are when it comes to either helping people or just expanding or just jumping into the unknown and doing something new. I hope that was helpful.
That was very helpful. And I'm definitely doing it to help people because I've been doing it in the background for a long time. It's just now I think I'm ready to move forward with my own business and build generational wealth, as you stated. And that's the name of my business is, right? Actually, my name of my business is BMW, which is building my wealth.
So one more tip. When I started, I actually did a few schools for free, and I would always do like church youth groups, financial literacy youth groups. I did adults, I did children, I did all age groups, because I realized the more I practiced it, the more I did it, the more comfortable I was, and the more I was able to kind of perfect the product that I was putting out into the universe. And then people would ask questions. And when I didn't have an answer, that let me know what I need to learn next to expand. And so that's another thing that you might want to do is, since you're not doing it for the money, maybe get a few people who you know might need to improve their credit score and help them improve their credit score. And then you can use that as case studies for your website and to build your platform. And you can get little testimonial videos from them in return. And that would be the payment, because not all payments have to be money, right? It could be the barter system.
Yeah, I did. Actually, I have 3 testers and I've raised one. Her credit score was like 5 something. Now it's 782. So I'm doing that, and I don't mind helping people. And I don't mind, actually, the webinar that I gave was for a company, a nonprofit, and it was for free. It was for free. And I don't mind. It's just, my fear is just, like you said, getting out of my head. Basically, that's my fear.
Get out your own way, Barbara, but you got this. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Barbara. And I'm gonna just say, as I'm closing you out, that someone told me once, if you know one thing more than the next person about a subject, that is enough for you to teach somebody something. It sounds like you have a lot more experience than that. So there's plenty of people out there. There's a tribe for you. And so it's just about putting yourself out there and finding those people.
I wanted to say a special shout out to Barbara. She actually is one of our top earners. She volunteers all the time. And she told me she was going to be, leading a webinar in credit. And she was nervous. And then after, she was like, Janet, I did so well. So shout out to you out here executing, going after your goals. So we're so
Love
proud.
it. Great, Barbara. Congratulations. Antonio, you are up next. Antonio, you're muted if you, okay.
There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Ladies and Alicia, how y'all doing? Y'all good? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We are good. What's up?
So I'm calling on behalf of a friend. She's a single mother. She's 37, and she just believes that there's a lot of risk to be taken, and so she doesn't invest in nothing. So I was just wanted to ask, what advice would you have for her?
She doesn't invest in any, like, stocks, real estate. She doesn't believe in any of that because she thinks it's all too risky. Is that correct? Antonio?
I think that was his question.
Okay. Antonio, are you back? No. Okay. I think this is a fascinating subject, and I think there's a broader conversation to be had about the risk factor and people's tolerance or appetite for risk. And I think it's come up in a couple of the questions and how we've each answered questions previously. So in the previous conversation about starting a business, to fulfill your purpose versus, doing it for money, I would always answer, of course you want to do it for money. We're not, if you're building a nonprofit, you still need to make money to run the organization. But a for-profit business is for you to build your business empire, which then builds your personal empire. I'm all about doing things, when it makes sense for a barter or for free, but I don't think that's the message, especially for women, it's not the message I would push. So I think there's some nuances around, but I am risk is it's not a consideration for me. I jump and I never look to see how far or how high I jumped. For other people, like my husband, he's very conservative. He's never going to jump until he thinks about something for like a year at a time. And so to your question, Antonio, like, she has to find the thing that is right for her, that feels good and light and joyful for her, that she doesn't see a huge risk in. I would think that, she could start with stocks or a mutual fund or like the S&P 500, because you can see the growth of those indexes year over year. And they always grow. So there is little risk, and she does, her research. I'm sure there's stuff on EYL about it. she would be able to find that out. Jatali, Janet, Danielle, you gonna say something?
I think also too, just have her educate herself. Because maybe that's where she's a little bit uncomfortable and hesitant. And maybe she's not fully versed or doesn't understand. I'm the same way. I don't like risk, taking chances, but there's a lesson in every chance you take. And I think if she just educates herself, maybe she'll feel a little bit better about those risks, and be more comfortable. So that's the advice I think you can give to her, is like, what's making her uncomfortable? What is she feeling risky about? And have her dive into that and educate herself on the wonderful platform EYL, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Those, of course. So, she can benefit from that. So I definitely think it starts with just educating herself.
Yeah, I agree. And I also just think people have to realize that everybody has a different risk index, but also just like we learn, there are people who, we learn differently. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some are a mix of different things. Your risk index is different too, and how you tolerate or what your appetite is for risk is different. And that's like something innately in us that you're not going to change. And so, especially when you're in a partnership with somebody, whether it's a business partnership or a romantic partnership, you need to know that and be able to balance your decisions. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting all the time, and things aren't going to get done. So
I agree with both of those. Like, one thing I always tell people is that you're actually losing money by leaving it in the bank. It's not going to beat inflation. So that's something that should be a concern as well. If you know what I mean? So it's all about, like, how do you think about risk? If I'm losing money by having it sit here, and I can easily put in a S&P 500, index fund, that's a very safe way to do it. So like, Danielle said, education is important.
Yep. Agreed.
And I guess I'll add to it and just say quickly, reminder, like, to expand on what Danielle said, yeah, and what Janet was saying. I mean, and everybody was saying, in the bank account, your money might make 0.01% interest in a year, right? But if you find a very low risk fund, you might be able to make a minimum of 5% on that same dollar. And what people don't understand is, even when you start to learn a language of money, you realize that there are certain things called calculated risk. So if you don't like taking risk, take a more calculated risk, because leaving your money in a bank account, anywhere you put your money, there's a risk. You can use your debit card at the ATM, and if someone does credit fraud, and the next thing you know, for 10 days, you don't have access to your money because TD or bank or some kind of bank is investigating, who stole the money, if you're supposed to get your money back. And then for 10 to 15 days, I remember that happened to me, and I was furious. Like, someone in Chicago or wherever it was, used $5,000 of my money. And the bank was like, oh, it's going to take 10 to 15 business days while we investigate this, before we give you your money back. And I remember thinking, like, are you kidding me? But so everything you do in life, there's a certain level of risk, and it's about making the right calculated risk. And so when you look at a fund, sometimes they'll say, oh, this is highly volatile, but it might be because it comes from like 9% to 31% back down to 7%, right? But even at its lowest, which is, let's say 5 or 7%, is still way more than you would be making for just in a regular bank account. And outside of that, if you don't even like that, let's say you have children. If you said she's a mother, I think you said she was a mother. And if I'm right, let's say your children have educational costs. If you have a 529 for your children, they might be, you might be paying for those educational costs tax-free, and have a certain amount of money that you'll be able to keep till you do that. Rather it's high school, middle school, because 529s are not just for college students now. And so when you think about stuff like that, it's about learning the hacks. So if you don't like certain risk, then maybe part of your investment is not necessarily spending money on something, but it's maybe diversifying your money into certain products, which will allow you to, pay less money in taxes and save more money.
Yeah, love that.
Thank you.
All right. So it's 9:28. I think we need to wrap up. So let's just do one more round. Like, we have our closing question, which is near and dear to my heart. So I'll ask everybody. We'll start with you, Janet. What I want for women in 2020 and beyond is?
what I want for women in 2021 and beyond is to be able to define what success is for them and not be concerned about society or what their mom thinks or what their friends say, but just really live out their purpose and do what's right, what feels right for them. That's what I'm trying to do.
Love it. Valencia?
I want women in 2021 to know their worth. Go for it.
Love it. Danielle?
I want everything for women in 2021. I want the women to continue to be resilient, break barriers, empower themselves and others, come together, unify. I want it all. I just think we're in a year of change. We've seen a lot of things. The narrative is changing. So I really just want women to continue to do it, support each other, boss up, whatever that means for you, whether you're an entrepreneur, stay-at-home mom, single mom, working mom, just boss up and define your own self. That's what I want for us.
Love it. Jatali?
I want to see women diversifying their portfolios, investing more, because I've noticed that even as a person who started with the real estate world, really truly, every time I have a real estate deal, and like, let's say it's a $200,000 deal with a 30% return in 4 months, it's usually a man who's like, oh, I have the money, here's the money. And I'm like, wait, where are my women? And then sometimes I talk to my female friends, and rather financially, because someone else was the breadwinner, like let's say if you're a woman who's a stay-at-home wife, doesn't mean that you don't have a financial purse, doesn't mean that you're not expanding your investment portfolio. It might not be a $200,000 deal, it might be a $2,000 deal, it might be a $50 deal, but I want to see women investing more and seeing them diversify their portfolio. Because like, let's say you invest in stocks, that's great, but don't think because you're expanding in one way that that's good enough. Because what we noticed, like, let's say people who were investing in stocks, some people had only tech in their portfolio, and then tech crashed more than once. It's crashing right now. And so some people, when it crashes, they say buy more, but then some people, when it crashes, just lose everything. So it's like, I just want to see that. And last but not least, having the balance of self-love. So however I can help women on that balance and on that journey, I'm putting 2 feet and both hands in, but I really think that self-love is overly mandatory. And we get so caught up in being the heroes and wearing the capes and being Storm that I feel like we sometimes forget to just do something basic, like take a nap or go take a longer bath and shower. Like I remembered mom moments where I couldn't even take a poop without my son being in the bathroom looking at me. And I'm like, yo, fam. And I had to like literally go to his side, be like, can you please just make sure when I'm in there that he's kind of, and and it's interesting because he never even thought about it. Like he was just like, oh, and so sometimes it's not out of malice. People don't realize what you need sometimes until you speak. So, I guess that I'll stop right there because I could go on for a whole,
Jatali, I could listen to you talk all day. I love your accent. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you.
I love when she said bloody. That always tickles me.
Oh, and I love it all. Just
you guys are
talk to me all day.
Thank you, guys.
I would love to hear you complete that sentence in 2021. What do you want to see for women?
What I want for women in 2021 and beyond is for them to focus more on themselves. And I say that with, yes, obviously like what Jatali just said was self-care, but I think from those of us who are raising daughters, those of us who have access to younger girls, having the conversations with them about honing in on what they want now before they are kind of bludgeoned by society to forget that and what brings them joy, and spending more time doing those things that bring us joy and focusing on ourselves and not being unapologetic about it. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we have nothing to offer to the rest of the rest of the roles that we have in this society. So
absolutely. Ladies, on behalf of EYLU, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our first ever Women's Initiative. Conversation information on Clubhouse, so find us there. And hopefully you'll see us again. We're hoping to do this maybe once a quarter. I don't know yet. We're still kind of figuring this all out. So thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we hope to see you soon.
I'm gonna start the Clubhouse now.
All right, we'll jump on to.
I'm coming on that. I'm looking forward to it, ladies.
All right, girls. Thanks.